Okay. Hello, hello. So it is several hours before midnight when we make it to 2025. And I just want to say, we did it. We did it. We endured so much in this last year. Let me take my glasses off. This is real stuff here. We endured so much within this last year that you need to be proud of yourself. Do you know we went through 12 months this last year? 12 months. I'm looking up something. That is 365 days, which is we clocked in 8,760 hours of life. Whether were awake or not, whether we were woke or not, whether we could see things or not, we were here. And I just want you to sit with that. You made a lot of progress this year. A lot of progress. So you need to be holding space for that. We have to hold space for that. I think that's important because we often just go through the motions. We just cycle in a realm of feelings, but not really knowing what they are because we aren't thinking about it. So tell me, what was something significant that happened for you this year? Did you get a job? Did you lose a job? Did you welcome a new family member? Did you lose a family member? Did you get some bad news that you weren't anticipating and you're wrestling with that news? Did you make some friends? Did you lose some friends? Did you hit any of your goals this year that you had from 2023? If you did, congratulations. And also, if you didn't, it's okay. It's really okay. The topic of today is New Year, New You, being patient with yourself, being patient with your growth. That is so, so important, you all, because if you're not patient with yourself, you'll be demanding so much of yourself. And that's when burnout shows up. Burnout is when you're just completely exhausted from life, when you're completely exhausted from people and things. Everything that you used to love, you no longer like it. You definitely don't love it. In fact, you might resent it depending on what that activity is or what the thing was. And so it's so important that you sit with that. And I'm on live again. Yeah. And so, because of that, you have to just be present with yourself. Be present with yourself. And so, being patient with yourself means that you're not trying to rush to the ending of it, that you're just enjoying the middle part. And enjoying is kind of subjective, right? Oh my gosh, so many visitors up in this space. It's subjective. Being patient means that you're not stalling. I am done. That's my dog. You're not stalling. You're not waiting for a prayer to just make everything go away. Being patient means that you're learning each day what this is teaching you. And that sucks sometimes because learning can get overwhelming. So you can't sit in things for so long that you're not seeing the picture anymore, if that makes sense. When you sit in something for long enough, sometimes it becomes exhausting because you've overthought it. I saw something in my nose. And so what you have to do is take incremental breaks. Taking incremental breaks in between the time that you're learning will really enhance what you learn about yourself and actually revitalize you, right? I mean, to a certain degree, you'll look forward to entertaining what it is. In yesterday's after hours talk, I talked a lot about sitting with something, reflecting on your feelings and your thoughts about a situation, and really going deeper. But you can't go deeper in patience with yourself. You can't go deeper in reflection with yourself if you're trying to be so focused on figuring out what it is. Like when you're angry about something, like why I didn't accomplish this year, like you're actually putting yourself down. Think about that parent in the background that used to do that to you. Think about that person in your life that used to drill things in your head so much so that you were hyper fixated on it and all you wanted to do was find peace about it. So that meant whatever it meant for you. I mean, that could mean that you really excelled or you really stalled. I mean, one or the two. Like, I don't even really believe in laziness. Laziness is, I think, a hyperfixation on other people's viewpoints of you. But being kind to yourself, you would see that somebody who's not doing what they want to do or not doing it at the degree that they could do it is because there's other things going on. Either their energy is low and it's been low for a while. Maybe they have a depressive episode or anxiety, and something's holding them back from releasing it so that they can go do it. You know, laziness also, sometimes people say that in comparison to their work ethic, and it's because you're hyper functioning, and that could be, you know, a result of anxiety as well. There's another side to anxiety that either makes you go over exerting into that space of doing whatever it is, or it makes you not do it at all. And that's what's so interesting about us as humans is that we all show up differently as it relates to stress. So that means that we're not really the same. I mean, we have similar patterns, but in the DNA of who we are, we're all different from each other. So being patient with yourself is understanding yourself more and understanding how this situation is reflecting more about what you need to know about who you are. So if you don't know anything about what I'm talking about, I encourage you to look at yesterday's after hours talk about introspection, because I talked a lot about how to use that to grow. And it's so uncomfortable. I'm not kidding you. It's so uncomfortable. If you know anything about introspection, you know it can be really exciting if you're used to going through that pattern, but the process of actually doing it, oh my God, that's hard work. It's hard mental, physical, spiritual, emotional work. So we're about to be in 2025 next year, tomorrow at midnight tonight. And I think there has always been this pressure of like, what's new about you? I mean, I even asked the question to somebody on somebody's live yesterday, like, what do you have cooking up? And sometimes when you ask that question, you're like so excited for what's to come for them, but realize that this does take a time. This takes time. There's a process. So even if there's this ambitious goal we have, what are the steps you're taking in between to make that a reality? And that's where we can actually start. We can start with the small thing, the one thing that you can do. I really like the OTAT theory, which is one thing at a time, which is super hyper focused on here's my big idea, but then how do I make it into small bite-sized pizzas so that I can really do one thing at a time, so I can practice the one thing at a time. So I encourage you, as you're thinking about the new year, or if you're thinking about your goals, use the OTAT theory and marry it with introspection, marry it with reflection. Like for everything that you do, reflect on how that went for you. What showed up? What was in the midst of all that for you? Because that's the thing that's going to take you farther with your goals. Like the more you know about yourself and your patterns shift over time. Like the way that you see your personality now, it does change over time based on your values and your skills and the experiences that you've had. So know that, the old you and the new you, it's all still you, but it's learning you over time that helps you evolve into that next version of yourself. And I think that's where the growth and the goals should lie, is seeing your advancement by what you're learning about yourself and how that it shapes your relationships and your work, your friendships, your community service, all of the things based on what you're learning about yourself and how that's connected to your values. And I want to bring up values really quick because being a new you, quote unquote, is knowing what you care about the most. And I think I found the greatest reflection, enlightenment from seeing how that's connected to my values or disconnected. Like I know for sure integrity is a value of mine. I know community is a value of mine. Like I need to be in community of some kind. I can be apprehensive at times, and there are things associated with that are a part of my past that I'm still working through. But in general, it's not like when I'm able to overcome it, I'm able to be in community, right? When I'm able to get over the inner thoughts and emotions that I feel, I'm able to indulge in community, which is a value that I care about. Authenticity, being real, like real means showing up as you are, like showing up like this is who I am today. It's not the best version of me. It's not the worst version of me. It's just who I am. I think that is profound, just to be you. Like, don't try to be something you're not, because I have been that person before and it sucks. I mean, you lose a complete sense of your identity. And that's what I really value, is people who are doing that work. Know that it's a problem, be willing to face it and work through it, because it's an invitation for greatness. It's an invitation to envision greatness. And that is all that I do. That is all that I try to do. And I'm not always perfect at it, no. But that is something that I have greatly benefited from over the last couple of years. So bringing it back to being a new you, be patient with yourself. Don't have all this amount of pressure on who you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to do. If there's any outside forces influencing your goals, shut it out. Ask yourself, do I really want to do this? Why? Why do I want to do it? And then when you get that answer, ask yourself why again. And then ask yourself why again after you get that answer. And keep going till you get down to the root, like the bare bones of the reason why you want to do it. And if at the bare bones you realize this is not really what I want to do, then accept it. Accept it. Because it's not time right now. Some things that you want to do, it's just not the right time. And right time is not always in our control. Right time is not always in our control. Sometimes it takes for a certain set of circumstances to bring more awareness to ourselves for us then to say, aha, this is the time. Like there's this one video on Instagram, I think it's from the McFarlanes. If you're a dad, you have that one wooden block from like way back when, it could have been a high school project. You have that one perfectly wooden block, but nothing fits with it. Like there's no need for it. And people are like, why don't you just throw it away? And you're like, no, one day I'm going to use this. I don't know when I'm going to use it. I don't know how, but it's going to make sense. And then all of a sudden you get that bed that's off kilter just by a little bit. I mean, it's off kilter by like a couple inches, and you're like, wait a second, I have the thing. I have the thing. I have the wooden block. And you put that wooden block underneath that bed, and boom, so level. So level. That is what growth is. Like, you do your work, not knowing when you're going to need it. And then when you need it, it's there. And you're like, oh, I remember when I couldn't deal with this part. Like, I couldn't go through this part. I was so afraid of rejection. I was so defensive. I was so traumatized by people who exerted this type of energy. And now doesn't even faze me anymore. Like, this is like a no-brainer. That's called doing your work. That's called doing your work. So being a new you is starting somewhere. Like, look at your past with curiosity. Do not judge it. Look at it through a curious lens, and then focus on what you're able to process in that moment. Putting your hand over your heart and just focusing on what it's inviting you to process today. And then, you know what? Some days you will be emotionally draining, but you're building up that skill just like you would at the gym. And like, set realistic goals. I'm all about SMART goals, those specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-bound goals. Do that. Look it up. Look up SMART goals, because oftentimes we just create this like long list of things we want to do, and it's just, that's all it is. And then when we try to put it in motion, we can't, because our habits don't match the reality of where we'd like to see ourselves. That's why it's incremental, why we're supposed to do it incrementally. Like, but you don't want to set the bar too easy for yourself now. Like, don't set it so easy that it's not even something that you'd even work on, right? Just a little bit. Like, if you drink 5 glasses of water and your goal is to eventually get to 10, drink 6. And then after you notice that you've been able to drink 6 glasses of water, do 7. You know what I mean? Don't just be like, I'm at 5 glasses of water, like, I'm going to stick to that because that's good. Like, no, if you need to push yourself just a little bit more. Like, otherwise, what? Anyway, you know. So, but if there's anything that you need to prove to yourself about yourself, it is to explore first. Explore first. Like, don't just come to a conclusion that you're lazy. Don't just come to a conclusion that you're not doing enough. Don't come to a conclusion that you're doing too much without assessing, like, what about it is doing too much? Because also that could be some projection from other people. Like, if you're a hard worker and you know how to balance it, keep balance. If you do know how to balance it, but from the outside, people are like, oh, she's always doing a lot. He's always doing too much. It's like, they could be projecting on you. And you have to be careful about that. You have to be mindful that that's their voice, not your own. So think about the things that you say to yourself. Think positively about how you speak to yourself. And when you think about your goals and the newest version of yourself, ask yourself, once you've seen the vision of what it could be, ask yourself, where should I start first? What's the first thing I can do? What's the one thing I can do? And then get that one thing done well, meaning practice that one thing. Don't just be like, today I'm going to do this, tomorrow I'm going to do that. No, like, let's just see if you can build up that habit. Because when I first got a gym membership, I went to Planet Fitness because I'm like, I got to prove to myself that I'm worth a lifetime fitness membership. I'm still not at lifetime, like, cost too, you know what I mean? But Planet Fitness taught me, like, go several times before you make your next investment. And then I did. I went several times in the month. Like, I went, on average, I was going about 2 or 3 times a week. And that taught me that I could go to an LA Fitness, which is what I did next. And after I did LA Fitness, I transitioned to the YMCA. And see, like, I moved up the tiers. So that's what you have to keep in mind is like it's incremental. You know, you don't have to do too much. You don't have to work so hard that you forget that this is a process. And you can be excited about your progress, right? I say celebrate the small wins over big wins because your big wins come from all the small wins. Your big wins come from all the small wins. So just focus on the small things that you can cheer yourself on. And don't be so hard on yourself. Be like, yeah, that's nothing. Because you're comparing yourself to either the older version of you, the past version, or from what you see from other people. Like you're not in competition with nobody else but you. Nobody else with you. But you. So focus in on what you can control, and that's your mind. You're going to have to shut them negative thoughts down and really focus in on who you are and who you're becoming with a patient mindset, with a kind mind, a kind mind. Kind is still being honest and transparent, right? Think about the parent that was just like honest with you, but very loving about it. Like, I got to tell you something, but I want you to know I'm with you. That is how you talk to yourself. And just do that every single time. Well, just wanted to give you this word before we enter the new year. If you're watching this, great. If you're listening to this, great. But know that there is more to come that I will continue to teach and share with you. And in the meantime, be kind to yourself. Peace.